Hello everybody, and welcome to this first webinar of the Administration School ICT Infrastructure Developing Your Knowledge and Skills course in the European Schoolnet Academy. Very warm welcome to those of you who have joined this webinar from different places all across Europe and beyond. I've got Uganda, Cyprus, Ireland, UK, Lithuania, Serbia, and many other countries. So we're very happy to have you here today. My name is Ned Karan. I'm one of the moderators in this course, along with my colleagues Roger, Jan-Noel, Benjamin, and Katerina. Roger and Noel are here with us today. Before we start, I'm going to ask you to mute your microphone so that we don't hear any background noise, and we will do the same with ours. If you have any question for our speaker today, please post them in the chat, and I'll make sure you address these questions to all participants so that everybody can see your questions. We will gather these questions during the webinar, and we will ask them to service at the end of the presentation. So just to know, the presentation will be recorded as well, and it will be available shortly afterwards in section 1.2 of the course after the actual announcement of the webinar. I will give now the rights to my colleague Roger Blanmeyer so he can introduce our speaker today. Okay, Roger, I'll give you the presenter's rights now. And to the speaker.
Hello everybody, and thanks for joining us. We know it's a bit difficult, and we've seen a lot of messages to say people are in schools or have meetings, and that's not surprising. Later webinars will be a little bit later in the day, so we hope you can join us then. So you just met Nair. If you have any problems related to how the seminar is working, technical problems, please send a private message to her via the chat. My name is Roger Blanmeyer. I work with Nair and my colleague Jean-Noel at the European Schoolnet in Brussels. I'm here to chair this webinar, which will last about an hour. And I have the privilege to introduce Serge Nunfak from Cisco. As you probably read, Cisco are in this MOOC to place, thanks to their funding. And not only that, but they've also offered 3 world experts on topics in the MOOC to join us live to share their knowledge. So we're really privileged to have Serge with us. Serge is co-manager at Cisco for the Africa region, no less. He manages corporate affairs and is working with Cisco for nearly 7 years. Before that, I think any of us in this webinar worked for a major mining company and was technical manager. His education list is long and impressive. He's an electronic engineer, and his postgraduate qualification is in business administration. Without any further ado, I'll take a seat alongside you and listen to Serge's presentation. I've had a review, and I can tell you it's extremely interesting. It's almost a course in itself, so we're indeed privileged to welcome Serge. Serge, and thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks. thanks, guys. The time when you get to be introduced, you feel like it's not you that has been introduced. Thanks, Roger, for that. Yeah, I always have that feeling. So the time is actually going. Yeah. So thanks again, guys, for joining this session. I can actually see that I'm the only one joining from South Africa. Most of you are joining from all around Europe, which is actually cool. Yeah, and it's a nice summer day here in Johannesburg. I was mentioning to Rogers. Sorry for as I know it's winter. I was in Berlin just last week and it was quite cold. Yeah. So the discussion of today we're going to focus on just some basics of how you can design and maintain your network. Of course, as a network engineer or maybe as a school teacher, your main functionality is not to maintain your school network. So I'm just going to give you some insight of things that you can consider when you want to design or you build a network. And things that you have to remember is you can be a network expert in just 1 hour. So it's also going to require you to have some additional additional training, okay, or additional things that learn. I mean, after that. So looking at the session of today, I'm just going to present you some type of network that you have, some component that you can use to build a network, some important things like building your network addressing scheme, how you can choose the right type of connectivity option I'm talking more about external type of connectivity for your internet connectivity. The fact that you can actually take into consideration when you want to design a small network, because as a school we're talking about very small network. It's not an enterprise type of network or big campus network, and also the basic way that you can, some basic information on how you can secure a network. And I'll make sure that I finish the session in 45 minutes so that you can have maybe 10 minutes to get some question. I hope that's fine. Before we actually go through the presentation itself, I'm sure you guys are quite agree on this point. Like today, everything that you want to do, whether you take a taxi, you buy something, you want to go to the bookstore, rent a car, build a car, listen to music, or just book an hotel, everything has been computerized. Like we have many companies like Amazon, Uber, Pandora Music, Airbnb, Google, car manufacturer like Tesla, the Taylor Square. All of them, they're now using IT system. All of them. And all the systems are being supported by networking base. So the schooling, the school and you guys network also shift to make sure that you actually also being more digitized. So we talk about digitization today. We're coming from, everything is being connected. Organization, there's a disruption in everything that we're doing now by IG. So regardless of job that we're doing today, saw on the chat there was somebody that is saying he was a school, a music teacher. Even the music teacher, you still need to have some background of networking. So that's some of the things that you have to consider when you're thinking. So look at the different network size. We have different. Network, they come on all sizes and different size. Okay, you have like small home network, like your network that you have home. Like now I'm connecting from my house. It's just like a router, and you have a router. You might have like several access points, 2 or 3, depending on the size of the house. Several computing devices. So depending on your small home devices, I also have small home office, some small office or home office network for people that are commuting and having type of home offices that this is more a office a network in larger scales. And also looking at large network in business or large organization, network can use on in even broader type of scales, because you have like storage. And when I say storage, we're talking about data center and access to information using different type of technology. So you should have to look at all this network and all different. Based on the size of the network, you also build a network depending on the size. And we also have different type of. There's also some type of network that we have, like client and server type of network. Client server mode is like, on the computer just where you have files and anything. Like client computers, you have software which they just enable you to request or display any type of information that you want. Okay, but if is a type of computing that is computing devices that provide other, different type of information. Like for example, you have server which are file server. You have server that can provide web services. You have server that can provide, for your management system. Environment, you just need to have a switching device, and that switch device, and the switch is just here for the client to communicate with the servers. So you also have those type of small network. You also have peer-to-peer network, which personally I won't advise you to do, but you might be on a situation where you need to share file very quickly. Maybe you might be on a situation where you have 2 or 3 people sitting in the area, They don't need to have internet connectivity. They just need to have maybe print or maybe file in between those two computers. Then we talk about peer-to-peer device. Good advantage because it doesn't require you to have to invest on intermediary devices. Intermediary devices, I'm going to introduce you the type of intermediary device that you can have. The type of network is quite quick because they require you to have some type of investment. It's easy to set up. You just have to use and connect those cable to a network-to-network interface, and also have some printers with my shade. But disadvantage of that, you don't have any centralized point of administration. But remember, one of the good advantage of building a network is that you can have a central point where you can share everything and everybody can connect there and get access to information. I know this type of architecture is not scalable because we have 20 or 40 devices that you want to roll in a network. You spend some time and you're also going to have some congestion because a computer is not meant to be a firing device. You have servers, you have different type of architecture like the client and server architecture, which I just presented. The network component. Okay, to build a network, you have different type of component that you have to take into consideration. Okay, you have devices, you have media, and you have services. So the device and the media. Okay, you have the device and the media. And the media, these are physical elements. These are things you can't see. These are physical elements. They are hardware. These are hardware thing of the network. Hardware is, like I say, is visible. These are like PC, switch, router, wireless access point, or cabling, which is used to connect those devices. Okay. You also have services. You also have services. So on service, the service is what we call normally application, things that you use on a daily basis, email, learning management system, your web services, anything which is actually go to the network. These are the type of service you can have. This is what we call services. So is it the code you have on the network? And what user, your student or maybe yourself, more acquainted to devices, because end device is, 100% of the time, well, let's say close to 100% of the time, the end device is whether used as a source, as a destination of a message that you transmit within the network. So data going to the network actually originating from an end device and actually going through another end device. That device is actually very important, important factor to consider. And you can see we have different type of end devices: desktop computer, laptop, print, IP phones, tablets, telepresence endpoint. This is actually video conference endpoint. And object which we are connecting now. We have now cameras also that are becoming end devices. We have smart watches that are becoming end devices. We have our buildings, we have light, we have fan, we have thousands of things that we are connecting now, which are also becoming end device, not the traditional end device that we normally see every day. Another component, this is also a component which is also can be also very important for you to understand, is what we call the intermediary network devices. Because when you have a traffic originating from the device to go to other end devices, there's plenty other component on the path of traffic. This is what we call intermediary devices. So this time when you have networking issues, like for example, you're trying to reach file server or you're trying to get access to the internet, this time when you have those issues, they are coming from any of those intermediary devices. It might be a wireless router, it might be a multi-layer switch, which is just a switch. Let me call it a switch, not multi-layer switch. It might be just a switch, or it could be also a firewall device, which is not well configured. These are things that you have to consider when you're figuring a network. So I also say that we have on the network component also have to look at the type of network media we use for transit of the data. Of the type of architecture that you want to build, you have to consider the type of media that you want to use. Because, for example, here we have copper. Copper is what is being used for ADSL line. Is what's being used for LAN cable. Like when you have a network cable, this will also be used. You have copper, or the cable network is also what is being used. Coaxial cable. So this is copper. But you think that most network now they're running on the fiber. So copper is only used just for LAN connectivity. But interconnectivity nowadays is mostly fiber. And you can see the fiber. That's the way the fiber looks when it's not being spliced. Okay, after being spliced, that's how the fiber looks like. However, inside the fiber optic is just light going inside the fiber optic. It can laser light, it can be just no light. So it depends. It's just basically light, and that light after that has been converted into actual electrical signal. Okay. You also have wireless. Okay, wireless connectivity can also be used as a medium of transmission, and in some of the region where you cannot dig, because remember when you have to actually to put fiber, sometimes you have to put it in the air or dig down. So in some of the region you don't have the flexibility to do that. Luckily, we have investing a lot on research and development. So you see, there's every 2 years, like even sometime every 2 years a new standard of wireless. We're on wireless. We used to be on A, we go for B, and then we went to G. Now we went to N also. Now we're talking about wireless AC. With wireless that going to get to 2 gigabyte speed, they do up to 1 gig. So wireless today is like it's like LAN already. Okay, LAN already. So one thing also which is also very interesting, something else to consider. You have to consider the type of wireless that you can use to build your network. Devices. Roger, you want to say something? Oh,
sorry, that was me. I just wanted to ask if you switch off your camera on purpose or video any. Okay, it's fine then. Just make sure. Okay.
Yeah,
it's fine. Whatever you prefer.
Because I just wanted to make sure that I have the best quality voice going through.
It's fine. Just to make sure that it was on purpose and not on accident. Okay.
No, I didn't on purpose. Yes.
Okay.
Do you guys you prefer that I stay with the camera or without?
If you can stay with the camera, it's fine for us. If you want.
Okay.
If you think
I don't mind.
Working properly, just switch it off.
Okay. I'm fine.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, so remember when you are building a network architecture, we're trying to maintain or build a network. All devices have to be identified. If they're end device, intermediary device, or every network has to be identified. The way that we identify devices in the network is an IP address. Okay, it's an internet protocol address, because you want to make sure they're an address that address that we use to reach them. Okay, that's what the IP address for. And for you to actually to show you have, and you can give that address to network devices. There are 2 ways that you can give. You can give them static IP address. This type of address will stay ever to them until you change. They are static assigned, so you have to make it manually. You have to go to each end device and put a static address, depending on the operating system you're using. For example, this is in Windows. You have to go Windows device and input the address statically. If you're using Linux or if you're using a router or a switch, you have to go statically and input. You can also dynamically. Dynamically is like you just put the option in device to receive IP address dynamically. So every time that you put the device on, the device will be sending a what we call GP request. Okay, a GP request will be received by what is called a DHCP server. DHCP stands for Dynamic host configuration protocol. So it's a functionality which is enabled by, can be hosted by a server or a router, and it can then provide IP addresses to all devices in the network. Remember, for a device in the network to communicate, for them to communicate, they need to have IP address. Without address, they cannot communicate, because how is a packet is going to know where it's going? The first thing normally that you have to do when you want to do a network, you have to design an IP addressing scheme and check if you actually have an IP address on PC or laptop when you have any issue on the network. So DHCP server support two types of addressing. You can decide to provide addressing on IP version 4 with the older version on the Internet Protocol configuration, or version 6, which is the latest version, but sometimes it's quite long and people find it difficult to use when they're not acquainted to IP, to the networking. We go to the difference of iVersion 4 and iVersion 6 today, so that you can actually research yourself and see the difference, and it's quite interesting. And IP address that is obtained from a DHCP server has a lease time. Okay, its time is not forever. It has a lease time. It's not forever. So you can, and normally the lease time is the one defining. You can define to have the lease time for 1 week, for 3 days, or even more days. So it depends on the network of the network engineers, and to define the lease time that you want to put for addressing for your network. Okay. It's not that you have only to open a DHCP server and everything runs the network. You have to have an addressing plan to know what class, because those IP addresses, they have different class. You have a class A, B, C, D. So I won't go in details in a different class. You also have to research on that. They have different class, and you can decide to use one class. You also have to decide what range you want to use for a specific part of your network. Because you want to make sure that when you're a network administrator, or when you administrate your school network, when an IP address, you want to make sure that those IP addresses, they only originate which has been used by students, and to be also know that this IP address range is being used only for the faculty, for your school, or something, or you just want to have like a addressing range which is only being used by the administration. Okay, and you have to plan that effectively. You have to plan that the way that you know how many addresses are going to be needed for different LAN. LAN stands for local area network. So it's a block of computer which we are communicate together. So you want that which addressing that you want to use for that block of connectivity of network. And things you have to consider. These are just things that are primary that you have to consider when you have to, things that you have to consider when you plan IP addressing. You have to make no duplication of address. Okay, because if two devices in the same network have same address, for example, you might have maybe one end device which has been previously configured statically, and now you have a dynamic configuration in the network, and those two devices now can be in conflict because they have the same address. So when packet that is sent to those address, because they're the same address, the packet won't know where to go. The two devices with the same address, and some conflict. So we have to put whether we have to refresh maybe one computer so that it can get a new address, or release. Normally you have command that we normally use on a computer that you want to the address of that computer. If you're using Windows, you can just type this command ipconfig release, and you can type ipconfig renew, so that at the end of the day you have the command. You can get a new IP addresses and then initiate a new communication. These are just some few things that you can get on the network. And you make sure that the DHCP control, because if somebody has access to your DHCP, you can actually put any IP address scheme, and it will be very difficult for you to actually to troubleshoot the network after that. Also, when you plan your addresses scheme, make sure that you have some sort of like policies. For example, you can say that, okay, I'm using, for example, the class C here. So if you have a network which is a network 192.168.1.0/24, which means that it's 255.255.255.0, and this network usually has 254 addresses that I can use. Okay, the first I use, for example, I can say, okay, the first address, for example, from 1 up to 2, I can use for my devices like my computer, laptop, iPhones, and anything that I want on the network. And because so many servers in my network, I can decide that the 30 up to 239, which is actually 10 address, I use it for my servers. Okay, and because also there's no thousand of printers, I can use maybe 240 to 249 for my printers, and any intermediary devices, like if I have a router in the network, I have a switch in the network, normally not more than 4 in a small network. So I can also use the 250 to up to 253 for my intermediary devices. Now for the main gateway, we also talk about the gateway. I can use the 254. The gateway, as the name mentioned, is the only point that all the device connected of the network can use when they want to communicate with something after. So it's not in the network. Example, if you stay in an island, okay, if you're in an island and you want to move from your island to the mainland, and there's only one, there's a boat there. So the way for you to move from your island to another island will be to use the boat. So the boat will be the gateway for you to leave your island to another island. So that's what the gateway normally does. It's actually the only way that a networking device from one network can use to communicate with another network. Must be muted.
Sorry, was a technical issue. It's fine now.
Yeah. Also, one thing that you have to thing also, Ivan.
Okay, I'm not sure what's going on now. Let's can you please all? I'm trying to mute everybody, but can you please show you're all muted? Again. Sorry, now?
Yes, I can talk now.
I think it's fine. But
It's all Academy now.
I'm not sure who is Academy because it's not me. And I cannot mute them. I don't know who is this.
You can mute them.
No. Please Academy. I don't know who you are. If you're from European School, but can you please mute yourself? I cannot mute you and.
I think it's much better now.
Okay. So yeah. Sorry for the inconvenience.
Sure, it's okay. Every time.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. So that was a good break. I think to consider in a network is the notion of broadcast domain. Okay, when you router, when you have a connectivity network, all the computers in the network, they talk together. They call what we call a broadcast domain. Every time they can communicate together, and the more they communicate together, the more traffic you have in the network, and more congestion you might have in the network. That's for speed and efficacy for the network to be efficient, very good and fast. You want to have as much as broadcast domain as possible. Because if you have one broadcast, if you have a class of 1,000 students, all the time they keep on talking, they talk, there's so many. So to have more control And to be more efficient, you might want to have to divide thousands of students into small classes or to reduce the broadcast domain. So, and the only way you can reduce the broadcast domain one of the way you can reduce the broadcast domain network is the use of a router. Okay, so you switch to reduce the broadcast domain. I will explain how. So one interface will be become in one broadcast domain, and so this is one of the issues that you have when you have big broadcast domain. The network becomes slow. The device operation is very difficult when you have any issue in network to find what the issue is, because the broadcast domain is quite huge, because you have a big network. What is advisable to do is to subnet your network. Okay, this is what we call subnetting. You can set network so that you can divide. Let's say you have 1,000 classroom. If you have a classroom of 1,000 students, you might have trying to divide that classroom of 1,000 students into a classroom of 10 students, of 25 students, or 40 students, depending of the type of device that you have in the network. Different things that you can use, different mechanism to use that is still on. You can use the setting. Okay, subnetting is a way that you take a range of IP address and you divide it into small small subnet of the network, so that you can divide the network into different subnetwork. So you have a small classroom, you divide that. I mean, you have a network of 1,000 users. You divide that network into a group of 40 users, and then each group of 40 users, you assign them different IP addresses. You can decide to use that by the use of a router, and you can also use that with VLANs. VLAN is what we call virtual LANs, and of course, it's not the advanced feature, but it's semi-advanced. But we won't discuss more on the VLAN today, because today is just about how to raise the basic of networking. VLAN can be a more advanced feature. That's actually how you do subnetting. That's how you do subnetting. It's about borrowing bit from the subnet part, create more hosts. Okay, and of course, that's just for your information. You can more on that, because also at the end of the session, some of you might want to do research more on things that they're not so familiar with. Okay, some more things which are important for you to know is how to choose the right type of connectivity for your school. What type of connectivity that can be used for access the internet, because at the end of the day, you have a school network. You might exchange files within the school, you might pray, do everything. But if access to the rest of the world, that's you. I find the right way to have an accessibility to the rest of the world. So there's this type of technology. So you might use your broadband cable. Okay, broadband cable, because with broadband you can have your broadband cable. You use your mobile services, wireless one, the leased line, the metro Ethernet. I will explain more what they're doing. So if you more on the side of a home or small office, so say if you don't have such a big school, or it's not so big, you might use DSL line. Okay, for example, in most houses we are using DSL or cable. The cable yarn. Some might say, what is the difference between the cable and the DSL? Most time the DSL line comes with other services like phone services, but the cable might be any cable that just quiet cable that just provide that connectivity from your provider. You can also use a cellular network. You might use WiMAX. You might use CDMA, you might use what else? You might use LTE, which is 4G. So depending of your area, depending of what you're trying to achieve, you might use different type of technology to actually get to the connectivity that you actually require. You might also use satellite communication, but in most cases, satellite communication might be used mostly as a backup. Okay, because unless there's no, then you lose satellite activity, or maybe if satellite falls down, because sometimes the satellite they fall. Okay, it happens sometimes. If you Google, you see like sometimes you have some satellite falling. They're falling in the desert somewhere in the US every time. I wonder why. Anyway, uh, of Russia. So this is something also is a good option that you can use as a backup in case your DSL cable line or cellular network is not working well. Satellite communication can use as a backup. And lastly, you have the dial-up. I wonder if people are using the dial-up. Dial-up is you get something like 56 kilobyte. I don't think providers in providing dial-up connectivity. Quite is a legacy type of connectivity. And for business internet connectivity, something which is more if you have better connectivity, dedicated lease line. Dedicated line is when you actually have like a specific, let's say, like a line that you have a specific line that is being leased from your school up to the internet provider side. So it's not a share line; it's dedicated only for you. And this is business type of connectivity, and of course, it's more expensive. Okay, and Metro Ethernet is also the same thing. Use the Ethernet connectivity, and you can use different type of medium that you can actually use on the Metro Ethernet. The details. DSL, we have different DSL. We have ADSL, we have DSL that you can use on business wise, and of course the different type of contention rate for business. Contention is where you have, for example, when you have a DSL line, you might have on one exchange server or multiplexer, depending on how you call it. You have on one line maybe 10, so the contention will be 1 to 10. But for business line, you have a slow contention rate, like maybe 1 to 4 or 1 to 1, 1 to 2. So the lower the contention rate is, the better GSL line will be. For business connection, ask your provider what is your contention rate. Before you just focus about the speed. Is it 40 megs? Is my speed 100 megs? Is my speed 10 megs? Is 5 megs? Is it, myself, I like to focus on the contention rate because sometimes the provider is not advertising you what is the contention rate of your line. And you also have a different satellite connectivity for organization. Most in schools or your organization that actually looking for best value, they go with KU band. But the KU band in satellite is something which is weather sensitive. Okay, it's weather sensitive. The organization, you have to look at the C band. The C band is not so sensitive to the rain or any weather fluctuation. So you also have to think about that when you choose your connectivity. Other thing to consider when you connectivity, remember I talked earlier on about the default gateway. Know that on a network, when you configure it, you have a gateway which is set on all devices, because without default gateway, you cannot have the network. Okay, I'm taking a big example. If you look at this scenario, if you want to make a ping, let's say from one host to another, okay, if you want to make a ping from one host to another, you can easily do that if you want. If you want to communicate, let's say if this host here want to communicate with this other, they try to go through the switch and they communicate. But to communicate now to another network like this one, different. I go through here. I need to be able to pass to this router. I need to have a default gateway configure in all this switch, because my now be acting as a way for me to exit my network. Okay, and time you also need a default gateway when you want to go to the internet. Okay, one thing which is also critical for you to know when you choose the type of connectivity and when you want to know the performance of your connectivity, the term is a NAT. The stand for Network Address Translation. What is a NAT about? Remember, when you talk about addressing, I mentioned about the version 4 of IP addressing and the version 6 on IP addressing. The version 6 came into action because there was a limitation. The space of address available on version 4 was deleting very fast. So we brought IP version 6 so that we can resolve the issue of IP version 4. But most of the network are still operating on IP version 6, IP version 4. Sorry, you have few countries, for example, like Belgium. Belgium, I think, is one of it's not the country that is using the most IPs in the whole of Europe, but most of the countries are still using IP version 4. Yeah. So with network address translation, is there to translate communication between a private network, which is the network of your school, and the public network, which is the internet, like when you want to access page like Google, YouTube, Facebook, or any website which is external from your organization, you have to use NAT. So your which is private has to be translated in the public address. And you go for your ISP. Your ISP usually provides you with only one IP address. Okay, yeah, normally gives you a range of 2-5 public addresses that normally use maybe for your web server, for your email services, or few other elements that you're using for VPN concentrator for those who actually have to connect to VPN to the school network. And much of iVision, you don't have much of public address. So for your thousand of hosts that you have in your network to be able to communicate outside the network, they need to translate the address that you have internally to addresses that they can really reach, they can use to communicate externally. The process of translation is called NAT. And because in the network world, every time there's an intermediary or any action, it slows the performance of the network because you have a packet that wants to go in. Out of it, it has to be translated using some sort of encapsulation and leave the network. When you return, because when you actually type http://www.google.com request, HTTP request, and the reply also has to be translated. So the request and the reply goes on the process of translation and is actually reducing on the performance. So there's something that you should take into consideration when using IPv4. They are to be translated when they go out of the network. Okay, that's what I'm using NAT. Okay, so the use for this is just like a summary of what NAT is being used for: translate networking addresses and to conserve the public address that we have. Okay, so that you the slide will be shared, that you retrieve it. Okay, and for example, for people using a stop network, a stop network is a network that only have one point of exit. Have a network, the way that you can exit the network is only through one devices. Okay, you're also using that when you're in that type of on environment. Okay, make sure that you also check that. For example, you can see that I have my subnet, my stop router here. That's my stop router, and that's the network configure. For me to be able to have access to the ISP, which here, that's my ISP. So communication from these devices to occur has to be translated here, so that the communication with the internet. Okay, so make sure that you read a bit about that, and because there's a translation, there's also impact on the performance. There's impact. The impact of the performance most time is negative. No, there's no translation in IPv6. There's no NAT in IPv6. Actually, there's a question from Alton. There is NAT in IPv6. IPv6 they're not translatable. There's no translation needed. That's why there's a lot of that's why IPv6 is very powerful. This IPv6 address, it's like 8 heads in the planet. If we can own 1 million of address of IPv6 address if we want. So is a great thing. We have minutes left, so let me go to some other consideration that you can have when you want to design network. So when you design a network, you have to look about a few of those things. The cost, okay? What budget do you have available? How much can you spend on network? How many do I need? Even how many users are going to have in the network for purchasing the device? You think about the scalability. If 20 users today, think about tomorrow. Tomorrow you can have 40 users. You might have 100 users. So think about the scalability when you port your networking devices. So think about the number of the port that will be required. The speed of the network. If you okay run the network with a 10 meg speed, 1 gig speed is fine because you're 20, 100. think 10 years down the line, you might have more students, more people in the network. You might have new services, not just more people, but different type of services. Because if today you're running on email, but now you have like a remote training. People have to connect remotely to your servers. You need a different type of capacity. Or you have different type of capacity which is required. That's why you have to think about the speed. And like for scalability, you have to look at devices which are expandable and modular. And the best of the thing, manageable. Okay? Device. So look at all that. And for that consideration that is not written there, also the thing, look at the security, the service, quality of service. QoS stands for quality of service. Is where you have to look at the devices that set the priority on the network. Because like YouTube traffic, priority as email, as a phone, we make a voice traffic. Doesn't have the same priority. So make sure you can set those priority by using the quality of service. Okay. So when you take that into consideration, about NAT or DHCP, if you want to use NAT or DHCP, take that into consideration when you build a network. Addressing for a small network, okay? You document which address is being used for the HR department, by the legal department, by the admin, for the school teacher, so everything must be documented, okay? And also being scalable, because I think is a crucial component of your small network. Doing them and that they are all segmented, applied nicely. That people forgot a lot when they forgot about high availability. A design is perfect when it's available. You can do the great things, but if not available, nobody cares. Okay? Make sure that you have availability, and you make things available by building a redundancy system. Okay? Think on redundant when you're adding more servers, more switches on the network, well, that can actually type of failure, that network failure, at least redundancy. For example, if I have this router, this one here, let's say this server. If I have this server, the link, the mark is showing. Okay, now if I have this server, they falls down. Okay, if you found like this, I wrote that I can go to this router, to this switch, to still be reachable. Because I have a link to another switch. So you can there's multi-path, different servers might be reached. Okay, because I put some availability the availability come from those different switches and different connectivity that I have here. So think about the availability and the redundancy, because when there's a failure, you must have something that can help for the failure. Management. Wow, this is something that is very important, especially to the network. You have to let you know what is your traffic pattern network. You know what type of traffic coming to your network. And we have protocols such as SNMP. You can research about that. SN or net SNMP and NetFlow. Network management protocol. What they're doing is like the billing system. Okay, with your phone bill. When you receive your phone bill, you see, for example, which number have called, when I called this number, how long did I call this number, what was the cost of call. That actually does. Okay, it tells you what is the type of traffic that you have in your network. Is it the voice traffic, SNMP traffic, instant messaging, FTP? What type of priority do I give to any of those traffic? You should be able to do that. And you have different software, you have different type of things that you can use, proprietary and proprietary. There's type of things that you can use to be able to control the type of traffic flowing through your network and giving importance to one traffic or other. Okay, so make sure you also think about that. One thing is to have your network also good to have it secure. So I'm not sure if you guys remember, but a month ago on Friday, the 21st of October, they had that big attack that actually have stopped all the DNS service in the US, and it was actually incredible because that attack was coming from internet-connected devices in the homes, the house. I'm sure of you, I mean, most of you do have internet at home. Many of you have the default password of your router home. Some have cameras home. You have DVR. I mean, the DVR recorder to record video home from your cable network. How you have changed default password from those devices that you have connected home? Not all. So what happens? Like attackers, what they did, they took advantage of those devices and they were sending distributed service attack from our home devices. Securing network today is very important because the intrusion network can be very costly. Okay, I say, okay, I'm a school, I'm not keeping any secretive data. I don't care if somebody gets to my network, even my network become hacked. But remember, what if at the registration time of the year, nobody able to register to your school because your web server is unavailable because of a denial of service attack, your server because unavailable. You have no registration. What some what if all the grades of your school get available on the internet so you can publish everything on the internet and it gets available to everybody? What if your exam before the exam because of it can become very costly? You have to design new exam, you have to shift the date. It's very costly. Somebody erase all from your learning management system. It's a big issue. So don't have data loss, data manipulation. Data is also something very crazy because to make sure that you preserve the integrity of your data. If you sign a student a mark of 10 and he comes back and he hack the server and put 14, you don't want to have that. So you secure a network in a different way. So I'm just thinking now think physical security first, okay? Hardware security, make sure everything is in the right environment, okay? Make sure that all the electrical access is good and is all maintained. Okay. You have different type of vulnerability. These are just the primary type. Okay, you have type of vulnerability. I want to into that. For example, you have different type of for example, virus. You have worms. We have torrent holes. This different type of virus can have in the network. You can Google and find difference between the different type of attacks. I mean, of virus you can have because all of them they are different. Some of them they are active. You can see them. Some of them they are quiet, like the Trojan holes. See them when they start making damage. Okay. So your different type of attack, like reconnaissance attack. So reconnaissance attack is just people don't see it as an attack. It's also sometimes you have somebody asks you to use what is the name of this tool again? Oh, I just forgot the name. So, for example, I can come to your school network and open a packet sniffing tool, being able to see what of traffic flow to your network, what ports are open. Okay, when I know what is open, what is your vulnerability, then I'll be able to know how I can actually get into your network. Okay, so that's why most time you have to close port which you're using and also disconnect cables from the switch. For example, if you have port on the school that they are not being used, you have to disconnect those ports from the switch so that you make sure that nobody actually get access to your network if they're not being authorized. Okay. Your access attack. Access attack is actually where people use like is that tool again. What is you want to get access to password? Okay, is you just run in the network and then you're trying to brute force. That's what I was looking for. You can use brute force. To want to access to password, and you can try it for 1 week by doing over and over again. So simple things that you can do. You can back up your data, upgrade, update, and patch. Okay. What I mean, backup means that every time you have data, make sure that you back up externally from your environment and also internally traditionally using a hard drive. You back up them on a storage network that is separate from your network. Upgrade. Every time there's a new upgrade of a new version of anything, upgrade, because the upgrade always come with mechanism to mitigate the different threats. Okay. Also, this triple A is authentication, authorization, and accounting. So it's a service that makes sure that you're providing a call access from on network. When you call access and also you know and you give different type of level of authorization, a different level of the network, and also you have a way to account to see who's access the network and who did not access it. Okay. And make sure also you use firewalls. Firewalls are very important to be used in the network because the firewall, what it does is filtering. It's actually acting as a prevention and detection. Okay. Pretty when you want to prevent things to happen in the network. Okay. Detection is when they already happen. In that you can actually mitigate that. So firewall is there for prevention and detection. And you have different type of appliance that you can use. You have Cisco security appliance that you can use as hardware. You have a server-based firewall. That means you can just have a server and so an application on that server. You have wireless Linksys wireless router with a firewall integrated inside the wireless access point. Of course, you also have a personal firewall on your workstation. Make sure that they are activated. Okay? Important. The security. So different endpoint that you have, you also have that they're secure, but updating the patches, updating the antivirus in this endpoint, regardless if they are smartphone or tablet, everything, make sure that they are all updated every time. Okay, so make sure that you have strong password. Don't put passwords such as 1, 2, 3 or just simple thing. Make sure you have long password with capital letter, with letters, with something even misspelled word. Make sure that they are difficult to obtain. Don't use basic password. Okay, make it difficult as strong as possible. So we have 3 minutes left. I'll go quickly to some questions.
Yeah, thank you.
That you want to recommend?
Thank you, Matt. It was really interesting. I think right on time. I think we should have some minutes for questions. So I'm gonna give. Do you have any questions you want to ask to Sergio?
Yes. Thanks to everybody on the chat with some amazing interactions and answering each other's questions, as well as listening to Serge. Is there any time for one question? Really, but maybe two. Pietro asked, we have to grant internet access to our students at school, but we obviously need to control the bandwidth and the access itself. What's the way to do this? Mutual SSID. Could you comment?
Yes. The different schools are using different type of different people are using different type of initiative. For example, we have software firewalls. Software firewalls can be linked to your Active Directory. Active Directory, if in case you're using Microsoft system. So every user connecting in the network using his school ID, his profile will be linked to the proxy, and that proxy might define the type of bandwidth that the user might have. So regardless the traffic the user want to use, if you want to YouTube, if you want to go, let's say traffic which are not important like YouTube traffic or Facebook, would be best effort. That means they might come through nicely or they might not come through nicely. But which are great, something like Note or research might be good, and you have to give them a certain type of bandwidth. You can say all students from that group will connect from this access point only going to get, let's say, 100 kilobytes per second. Whatever they be doing, they're going to have a reduced type of bandwidth. And if you're an administrator, you're also going to be part of a different group, and your bandwidth might be unlimited or it might be also being reduced. So depending on what you want, you have several type of system. And personally, I've used this one, which is cool. I'm typing on the chat. It was Stereo. I'm still available, but I've used it like long time ago. It was quite easy to use. That was like maybe 10 years ago, but it was very easily, and it was a good way. It was integrating into different type of architecture. Like if you use Microsoft using Linux, it was easy to be integrated.
Well, 5 o'clock where I am, so unfortunately no more time for questions. On behalf of everybody, I'd like to thank you very, Serge, and hope you've got water handy after that session. A lot to take in, a real master class from a master expert. And I think we detected a love of the subject as you were speaking about it.
Yeah.
Not always easy to do.
Yeah.
So it was a delight and a privilege to hear you. Monitoring the activity, we noticed that it peaked at about 82 participants.
Yeah.
And very few of them were not paying attention. Yeah? There's a little thing built into WebEx that detects that. So all credit to you, basically. In the course, we'll talk about the Cisco Networking Academy and how you can perhaps follow up some of this information in a more formal course. If you possibly students in your school as well, but there's a lot to cover. Quick point, on security, there is a module coming up later in the course on that. It's a vast topic, but again, Serge, thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the evening.
You too.
To everybody who joined us as well, thank you for your time. Now you may have some more words.
Thanks for arranging this, and let me know if you need more session. I'm sure the technical team will be quite well. We'll be able to run more sessions. So let us know. Thanks for that, and it was nice by Nia. Thanks, Nia, for the organization. You're very good.
Thank you for being here and for your time also.
Thank you, guys, and have a good day.
Okay, everybody, for joining this webinar tonight. Stay tuned to social media channels, Facebook group, course forum, or Twitter with hashtag ICTadminCourse. And I wish you all a very nice evening. Thank you, Sergius, again. Thank you, Roger. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a nice evening.
Bye-bye.